Hey guys, it's Anna and I'm back with part 3 of the XLOOKUP tutorial for Excel. So the first time we looked at what to do if you had two sheets, both had a list of students and you wanted to match up a student ID number from one sheet to a student ID number from the other sheet in order to pull in some data from one sheet to another. The second time we looked at what to do if you actually want to pull the student ID in. You've got a sheet that doesn't have student IDs. How can you still match up and use XLOOKUP to pull that over? And today we're looking at the third type of issue. In this case, I have a list of class schedules, which means each class that each student is taking is on a separate line. And I want to pull only third period teachers, but they're all the same student ID number for this student. So how is it going to know in XLOOKUP which line is the third period teacher? And I'm going to show you how to do that. So we're going to go over to class schedules here, and I'm going to make an identifier just like we did in the part 2 video. I want some unique way to identify each class period for Harry Potter here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine together the student ID with the period number. I like to put a little dash in between just so it's more visual for me to tell which is which. And we're going to use the concat again like we used last time. Remember, concat combines different items together to make a text string. So I'm going to combine together the student ID number, comma, and then I want to put a little dash or hyphen. So I'm going to put that in quotation marks. Remember, anything you're going to type in here needs to go in quotation marks, and then another comma, and then I'm going to put the period number, close parentheses. So now this is this student ID number -1. That's the first period class for that student. Fill down, and now I've got a unique way to find, third period for Draco Malfoy, okay? So I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to show you how to pull that over. What we're actually going to do, you could do over here, you could do third period identifier. You could make an extra like helper column for yourself and do a concat equals, don't forget your equals, concat, and then do student ID, comma, in quotation marks, -3, end quotation marks, to go ahead and make that same identifier here. You could make that as a helper column, and then you can use your XLOOKUP to match this column over to the class schedules. But I'm going to actually show you how to skip this step and not have the extra column in here. I'm going to nest that same formula here into my XLOOKUP. So it's going to do the concat during the XLOOKUP. So I'm going to get rid of this and show you how I'm going to do that. So I'm going to do equals. I want to do an XLOOKUP. First thing is the lookup value. What am I looking up on the other sheet? And here's where I need to do my formula within a formula. So I'm going to concat the student ID number, comma, in quotation marks, -3, because it's third period, and then in parentheses. That completes my concat formula there. So now this has given me the lookup value, the student ID -3. So I'm going to do comma. Now I'm ready to say where am I looking that up? So I'm going to click over to class schedules and say I'm looking it up in this column here, comma. And then what is it I want to pull from this sheet? I wanted to pull the teacher name. Okay, close parentheses and hit enter. And so Draco Malfoy's third period teacher is Ferenz. And now I can do the same thing on down. And I want to go down and make sure that worked. I'm looking at the formula and making sure, yep, it's still in row column B and it's changing for each row. The -3 stays the same for each one. So there are the third period teachers for each student. All right, remember on the first video we talked about that you could do named ranges. So you can actually do that here as well. You could name this range ID, the identifier. And then when you come over here and write your formula, you could actually write it so that instead of, oh, and here, you should also name this teacher. Sorry. Okay. Then when you come over here and write your formula, let's write it again. We'll do XLOOKUP. The lookup value, the thing we're looking up, is a combination of the student ID number, comma, quotation, dash, quotation, oops, dash 3, quotation. That's the thing we're looking up. Where we're going to look it up is in that ID column. And the thing we want it to give back is the teacher name. So that kind of simplifies that. And of course, it gives the same result. So that kind of simplifies that formula a little bit if you use the named ranges. So you could do the same thing. Let's say you wanted to find the advisement teacher instead. This is something that I'm sometimes asked to do. So instead of getting the period number here, you want to get which one of these is the advisement one. You won't know advisement unless you look at what? The name of the course. So what I'm going to do here is do a course identifier. And I'm going to do it kind of the same way I did the period. I'm going to use a concat. I'm going to get the student ID number. And then I'm going to choose the name of the course here. And so the one I'm looking for will be the one that's called that student ID number advisement. Now, that brings up a little bit of an issue if you're working with real student data from Synergy, because our advisement classes have different names. Some of them are advisement 9, some of them are advisement 10. They're all called advisement, but they have something after them. So what is an easier way to pull just the advisement classes? Something that I've started doing for that is, instead of pulling the whole name of the course from F2 right here, I only pull the first 4 characters of that name. So to do that, I'm going to do a formula called left. And what left does is you point it to a set of text and you tell it to get the leftmost characters, and then you tell it how many you want. So the text I'm pulling from is the name of the course, comma, and then the number of characters, I want to get the first 4 letters of the name of that course. And I'm going to close parentheses on my little left formula. And then I've already got the close parentheses here. Hit enter. I'm going to fill that down. And now all of the advisement courses are the student number plus ADVI, okay? So when I come back over here, if I want to pull the, let's say, advisement period, and let's make this simpler. Let's call this column course ID. We're going to use our named ranges. Let's call column D the period. And that'll make it easier to write my XLOOKUP over here. So I'm going to find the advisement period. I'm going to do XLOOKUP. Don't forget your equal sign. The thing I want to look up, I'm going to have to do a formula within a formula again, because I want to concat this student ID number. And what I want it matched with is ADVI, because all the advisement classes start with ADVI. I put it in quotation marks, close that. Now that's the end of my concat formula. That's the thing I'm looking up. And now I'm going to do a comma. Where do I want to look it up? I want to look it up in the course ID. Remember, that's the name I gave to that column. And what do I want it to give me back? I want it to give me the period back. Okay. And this tells me what period each student has advisement. I could also do advisement teacher the same way. So I would do an XLOOKUP. My lookup value is going to be a concat, or a combination of this student ID number plus, in quotation marks, ADVI. That's going to help me find the advisement. Close parentheses to end my concat or combination. I'm going to look that up in the course ID, just like I did before. And this time, instead of giving me the period back, I want it to give me the teacher back. Hit enter. and that'll give me the advisement teacher. Okay, so I hope that makes sense of how you can use XLOOKUP to pull from a sheet where you've got the same student number listed on multiple rows. All right, and to get the one that you wanted. So I hope that's helpful to you. Let me know if you have any questions, guys. Thanks.